Thank you for joining us for our Women Wednesday Entrepreneur Series. I'm Brandy Stitt with the Women's Business Center in Kansas City, and we're pleased to have you here with us. Today, we will focus on Social Media 101, which will be the first of a four-part series that we'll be hosting on social media topics with Aviva and Christina. We are recording this session and we will post the recording on our YouTube channel. We will share the link with everyone when we have it posted, and certainly you're welcome to visit our YouTube channel at any time to see videos of previous sessions that we've recorded as part of our ongoing series to help entrepreneurs face their business challenges. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Aviva Ajmera with Solve KC and Christina Hager with Ovations Digital. And ladies, you should both be able to share your screens.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Christina Hager, and I'm the president of Ovations Digital, and I am a social media strategist. And so what that means is I help individuals, businesses, and brands use social media strategically to reach their business goals. And I have customers really both on the B2C and the B2B side. So retail, e-commerce, brick and mortar stores, restaurants, health, wellness, beauty, and then also services, consulting, sales. As well as individual thought leaders. So attorneys, physicians, consultants, real estate agents, people who really want to be seen as a voice of authority in their field. I write for Forbes about social media, and I love speaking about the latest trends and tips. I am a small business owner as well, and so it's really important to me because I understand all of the various hats that you all wear. And so I really love supporting business owners to help them really get the best ROI for your social media efforts.
Thanks, Christina. Hello, everyone. I'm Aviva Ajmera, co-founder and CEO of Solve KC. I have been giving a version of this class for the last 4 years to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits all over Kansas City. But I'm especially thrilled today to be partnering with Christina to teach this class with you. Like Christina, Solve has B2B and B2C clients across many industries. We also have a lot of nonprofit organizations, and we do a lot of strategic planning and implementation work for our clients. We also work with their board of directors to help them become high performing. Common to all of this work is marketing and social media. I have been a part of a large international B2C company, 2 international B2B consulting firms, and now I own my own B2B consulting firm. And each of these companies uses social media differently. So our hope for you today and throughout our 4-part series is that you will figure out what works best for you. We are going to teach you tips and tricks and share some real business examples. As much as we can, we'll share local business examples for you, but we'll also show great national examples. We have 3 more classes in the next 3 weeks. I put the links to each of those classes in the chat, and they will be focused on each of the specific platforms. So today we'll go through the big 4 for business, but the subsequent classes will focus on just Facebook, just LinkedIn, and then our 3rd class will be Instagram and Twitter. We will also be offering the entire series again with updated information because it gets updated all the time in January, just in case you miss any of them. And like Brandy said, the Women's Business Center will be posting each of our sessions in recorded form on their YouTube channel. So one more housekeeping mention, we are going to be going fast today. We have 90 minutes to share all kinds of great information with you. Our request is that you send the questions that you have through the chat or through the Q&A. I'll be monitoring both of them, and we will try to take 1 to 2 questions as time permits at the end of each platform. And the rest of the questions that come through, we will try to answer when we do our platform specific sessions in the next 3 weeks. So let's talk about our agenda. I also wanted to mention, Brandy had sent to everybody in advance some slides, and those are handouts for you to use as worksheets. So I'll try to remember as we go through the deck to reference the handouts in case you've got them in a stack on your desk so that you know you can take some notes on them. So, we like asking you, what do you think when you think of social media? Because most likely, if you're taking this class today, you're feeling perhaps something like one of these pictures. It could be, you know what, I really don't like social media. I think of it as something that the younger generation does, and they've lost the art of how to actually have a conversation because all they do is communicate through their devices, even if they are 2 feet away from each other. Or you could be thinking, social media is a little scary. I was kind of hoping it would go away. It kind of reminds me of chemistry class, where if you mix the wrong things, you're afraid you're going to have an explosion. I promise you, we won't let you have an explosion. Or it could be, there's so much vernacular that's just specific to social media, and I find it to be very confusing. Well, we are going to make sure that by the time you finish this class and the entire series, you don't feel like any of these 3 pictures. So what we're going to talk about, our focus is social media for your business, but where relevant, we will talk about your personal social media pages, because as a small business owner, one of the things you will need to decide for each of the different platforms is, are you going to have just a personal page, or are you going to have a personal and a business page? We'll share some statistics on why social media is critical, and especially share with you how COVID has impacted social media, because it has. And it's important as business owners or as someone who's responsible for marketing for an organization to understand what has changed in regards to social media during COVID-19. Christina's going to share some great information with you about speaking social, so you get really comfortable with some of the terms. And then we will start to do our highlights of each of the 4 platforms that are the biggest platforms for business. We will be taking Q&A at the end of each specific platform, but also feel free to put your questions, as we mentioned early on, into the chat, and we'll try to do our best to get to them as we can. And then before you leave today, we will also help you begin your Q4 2020 calendar. So our goal today is to share the top 4 to help you understand which 1 or 2 platforms is best for your business. We'll talk about how you establish your goals, and then we did send some worksheets as a part of the pre-read pack so that you can just print them out the next 3 months of the year and start making some notes. And then, as we've mentioned and we'll continue to mention throughout, this is really a primer of the top 4 platforms. For any that you decide are right for your business, we really encourage you to sign up for the platform specific class over the next 3 weeks. They have so much incredible material in them. I promise you it will be well worth your time.
So usually when Aviva and I are approached by business owners who want to understand why they need to be on social media, a lot of what we hear is, well, I just have to be, right? Or someone told them, you should get a Facebook page. You need to be on social media. But what's really the business reason behind why you actually need to be on social media? It is critical for your business in 2020, whether you're on the B2C side or the B2B side, to be on social media. We know from Forbes that 74% of consumers, they rely on social media to make business decisions. 43% of people who are actually in brick and mortar stores are also on their phone shopping and looking at reviews on social media sites while they're in a store. 71% of people actually make their purchasing decisions based on social media referrals. So it really is essential that you have a presence that's really working for you on social media. Also, the generation and how things have changed on social media is very different today. Gone are the days where people really know what catalogs are. The next generation of consumers, they're counting on you to seek them out. And for the first time, we have a generation of consumers who care just as much about how a product or person or service makes them feel as they actually care about the product itself. And so that's really important when you remember this user experience and why people might gravitate towards you on social media. There are a lot of reasons why your consumers or customers might follow you on social media. For sure, to learn more product information or stay up to date on what's going on at your company. They might follow you for a discount. But what we're seeing a lot of, especially right now with the pandemic, is people are following companies as well as brands, organizations, individual thought leaders, and businesses on social media because they want to be entertained. They want to be inspired. They want to be educated. And so when you're starting to think of what content you want to share on social media, right down at the bottom is they want to be sold to. People, it's critical when you're thinking about what you're going to use social media for. So let's look at a little bit of some stats on, again, the business case for social media. 92% of marketers are saying that social media has helped their business. And if you've done social media right, you probably have seen that it's helped your business. 92% of customers are retained when companies have a well-crafted approach to social media customer care. And we all know it's way better and easier and less expensive to keep the customers you have than to go out and try to find new customers. 90% of B2B businesses saw increased exposure from social media. This is a newer trend in the past years. At first, social media was sort of just looked at as for something B2C, but it's really important that if you have a B2B service, that you consider social media as a part of your marketing strategy. 78% of consumers say that a company's social media post impacted their purchase. And during COVID, about a third of US consumers worry that if you're not sharing news about your business on social media, it's because you're in financial trouble and that you're going under. And so they're not going to give you their dollars if they think you're going out of business. A lot of companies sort of pulled back during the pandemic because they didn't want to come across as insensitive, or maybe they didn't even know what to share. But it's important that you have a plan and you keep sharing about your company or business, because people really do find it comforting to know that you're still going. And then 63% of consumers who search for businesses online, they're just more likely to use the ones with an informative social media presence. Lastly, a lot of times social media gets a little bit of a rap, a bad rap, I'd say, that it's just for the millennials or Gen Z or for the kids. It is true that millennials have different behaviors on social media than we do, but I'm going to tell you something about millennials. Right now, millennials currently possess over $100 billion in spending power. And over their lifetime, that number is going to go up to $10 trillion. So to ignore them is a huge mistake. To learn to speak their language on social is imperative. Now, this is also a time where some of my B2B friends say, well, we're selling a service, we're selling a consulting service or printer ink, or we're not really going to worry about millennials. But let me tell you another fact. For the first time in history, millennials have taken over as the most populous generation in the workforce. And by the end of this year, Deloitte tells us that they are expected to number over 50% of the workplace. So the chances are the person who's picking up the phone or reading the LinkedIn or responding to your business inquiry may very well be a millennial. The person who has the purchasing power and the deciding power, or the ear of the person who makes the decision, may very well be a millennial. So to ignore this generation and these new trends is really a mistake that will end up impacting your business bottom line. Now let's talk about COVID. We started this class in the summer when COVID was very new and people were very worried. And we saw right away that social media was different. So let's talk about at the beginning of 2020, we saw that the population had increased about 1% the general population in the last year, but social media users were up 9%. People are really embracing social media. And then March hit. And we see on this chart across every single age demographic, we see an increase in social media use. I think in July alone, social media increase was up almost 10% for both men and women. And the way 46% of women, right, and 41% of men were spending more time on it. And the way that people were using it was different. And here's why. And this is why it's important for your business to understand how your end users and your using social media in the time of the virus and how it's impacted social media. So there's a lot of information that people are seeking on social media. 62% of Americans use social media to get their news. That is huge. And with the election coming, and we'll talk more about that in our 201 classes, we've already seen an uptick of that. More and more people, and this was a trend before that was really amplified by the pandemic, more and more people are going into Facebook, going into Twitter, going into Instagram and LinkedIn and using their internal search engines instead of just Googling something to find out information. And this really, again, was an uptick during COVID. And they're starting to change their habits. We always used to be able to tell people you'd see a lot of engagement at lunch on social media and a lot of engagement at night when people came home from the office. But all of a sudden, pretty much everyone was working from home in some capacity. People were schooling from home. So we saw all those times of engagement really shift up into the morning, which we had really never seen before. We saw a little bit of a dip in engagement in March, but then we saw a rise in engagement. People wanted to connect with others. They were stuck at home. They were away from the office. They were social distancing. So all of a sudden they were really hungry for connection. It also impacted ad spend. What people were needing to spend on platforms like Facebook or Instagram to get their messages out to consumers. So ad spend decreased, which is good for you as a business owner. You had to pay less money to have your message or ad seen by more people. But click-throughs were up, meaning more people were clicking through your ad to find out your messaging, which was great for business owners. We also saw, again, that connective piece. A bulk majority of people find that it's reassuring to hear from brands or businesses. They want to know what people are doing in response to COVID, and only a really small percentage said that they didn't want to hear from brands right now. But it's important because they want to hear relevant and sensitive content. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and certainly in our 201s as to what that means, especially from a business and what you're doing. It's also important to know, especially for B2B and you share company news, 35% of Americans are actually concerned about their own job security if their company is not posting on social media. So you have your consumers and customers who are worried that you're going out of business, and then you have your own employees. So social media in the time of virus can definitely be used to help assuage fears and give people some confidence and peace of mind in your business.
Great. That's a lot of information, great information, and hopefully it gave you even more encouragement regarding how important social media is for your business. This next slide we do have in your handouts, and I'll just kind of give you a heads up. There's a lot of information on this slide, but we did it by design, and really this slide is meant to be your one-pager guide to help you figure out which 1 to 2, maybe 3 platforms are going to be best for you. So first, I'll just kind of walk through the headlines of the 4, and then I'll go from left to right and hit some of the highlights of each of the platform. So Facebook, no surprise, is the most popular social media platform. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking platform. Instagram is number 2 behind Facebook for the social platform. And then Twitter is actually the second most recognized social media platform. So let me hit just a few headlines on Facebook. I'm going to first go to the demographics, because if you're not already on Facebook, Christina and I will tell you, you need to be on Facebook. 70% of US adults are on Facebook, 65% of those are under 35, and even 51% of teens. Now, we know teens use the information differently, but the fact is they get older and then they start to migrate into that adult demographic. So knowing that they're on there now is important for you to know. And for many of you, you might have a business that targets teens. There are over 90 million business pages on Facebook. So again, if you're a business in one way or another, we're going to highly encourage you to be on Facebook. Regarding engagement, Facebook stories is something that has popped up in the last couple of years, and there are 300 million active users of Facebook stories. On average, a Facebook user is on the app almost an hour every single day. That's a lot of time for you to have the opportunity to influence them, to let them know about your business. And Facebook is best for photos, videos, links, and events. So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely the business-oriented social network. Now, many of us that are, let's just say a little bit older, might remember when LinkedIn first got started. It was really just a place to put your digital resume. And really back then, if you had a LinkedIn profile, it was almost a signal that you were looking for a job. It is so not that anymore. Now, many of you have received LinkedIn requests from Christina and I over the past couple of days. I'll let you know, not all of you are on LinkedIn. Some of you are really hard to find. And some of you, I know we can help you make your LinkedIn profile fabulous. So listen up. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. There are over 40 million business pages, and 79% of the users are over 35, with 44% having a high income, so 75,000 or greater. There are 90 million senior level influencers and 64 million decision makers. So just like Christina was saying before, sometimes when you look at the demographics of the age of the user, it's not a perfect correlation of who's actually going to be making the decision on whether or not to buy a product from you. When we talk about engagement, about 40% of LinkedIn users are on it daily, so not as frequent as Facebook. However, those that are on it a lot. And for those of you that have not been on it, I would say maybe the past 2 to 3 weeks, hop on it today. They just added LinkedIn stories, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about that in a few minutes. No question, LinkedIn is best for networking and building your professional credibility. If you are in a B2B business, you need to be on Facebook. Okay, so let's talk about Instagram. Instagram is a social sharing site. It's really focused around pictures and 15-second videos. So really different than LinkedIn is. However, 90% of users are under the age of 35, but the demographic of 55 and above is the greatest growing demographic. And 75% of US businesses, 75% use Instagram. And that number has definitely gone up in the last few years. In our Instagram specific session, we're going to go through lots and lots of examples of why you should be on Instagram and what it takes to really be successful on Instagram. On average, an Instagram user is on for 53 minutes a day. That number has almost doubled in the last couple of years. It used to be in around 30 minutes a day, but with more and more businesses being on it, and with the addition of things like stories, it's just really fun and easy to engage on Instagram. Instagram is for mobile devices. So unlike Facebook and LinkedIn, which you can access on your mobile devices, but also on your laptops, Instagram is only for your mobile devices. It is ideal for photos and videos and stories. And if you have an image-friendly business, so anything in the retail, art, food, entertainment, travel, beauty, real estate, Instagram is ideal for you. Okay, so let's talk about Twitter. Twitter does limit your posts to 280 characters. It is for conversation, customer questions, and news. There are 600 million users, and gender split wise, it's about 50-50. It is where hashtags were created. Although hashtags are now used across many, many platforms, it's definitely Twitter that brought it to its popularity. Twitter is best for PR, news, real-time customer engagement, and we'll talk about that more in the Twitter specific session. And it's really great for photos and videos and links. So again, depending on the type of business that you have, Twitter might not be right for you, but it might be perfect for you.
As Aviva was giving us some of these fun, fast facts, she was using some terms, hashtags, users, feed. And so it's important that we all speak social. And so an important part for Aviva and I in any strategy is being able to evaluate your efforts. And in order to do that, you need to know what you're looking for and what you're measuring on social. And so we need to translate a little bit of what these terms are. So users, these are not your grown children who live with you forever and ask you to make them dinner every night. Users just means the people who are using, who are in the platforms or channels. Likes. If you're on any social media site like Facebook, you've hit the like button. In Instagram or Twitter, it's a little heart button. Feed is your rolling list of content. So as you log on your cell phone or your desktop and you scroll, you're scrolling through your feed. And your feed does not give you information in a chronological way. It actually sends on each platform, there's a specific algorithm, and that's each platform decides in which order of importance you see that content in your feed. And that's something we'll talk about in the 201. We have each. This is the number of people who have come upon a particular piece of content. So how many feeds it might go to. And engagement, this is what means when people share, like, or comment on your post. They're actually engaging with it. Sharing it or retweeting it is taking a piece of content from your business or personal page and sharing it onto their page. And then a click through is a way to measure how many people click through one of your ads or one of your posts onto somewhere different. And for most businesses, this means clicking onto your website or clicking onto a deal that you want them to see. That's a really important metric to be able to measure. And people always ask about hashtags. A hashtag is used to collect content about a particular topic on social media. And you literally use the pound sign and then write all the words together. There are funny hashtags like hashtag Wine Wednesday, which is today, by the way, or hashtag feeling so blessed. But then there are hashtags businesses, brands, organizations use because they want their content linked with other content that's similar. So it may be hashtag hashtag shop local, hashtag women supporting women, any of those hashtags. And you'll be very familiar with a lot of these big brands or organizations. They have a branded hashtag, which is a hashtag just for them that they use across their social media. You might see hashtag just do it or something like that. And I would suggest that if you don't have a branded hashtag for your business or organization, that you think of one. Don't make it too long. That's our little tip on that. And so now we're going to talk about the big four, as Aviva said, and we will start with Facebook.
All right, so we have about 3 slides on each platform, and then we've got time for questions as well. So we're going to do our best to start to move through these in a really helpful way. So like we said on that big chart that you've got as a handout, Facebook is great for building brand loyalty, photos, videos, links, and events. And you can see by the chart on the lower right-hand corner, more than half of every single age group is on Facebook. That 65 and above number, 46% is pretty good. And I would say, I bet that number has increased now if we do a quarterly update for where we are in the year. So how often do you post? That is a question we get asked all the time. Our recommendation is a minimum of 3 times a week, a maximum of 10 times a week. So, okay, that's frequency, but when is the best time to post? Because there are better times to ensure that your posts actually get seen by people. So the best times, and these are averaged across all age groups and across all industries. So we'll share this information with you today, but for your industry specifically, or if you've got a target demographic by age, we would recommend you actually Google that, because they do slice and dice it a lot of different ways, just because consumer behavior is different based on age group and industry. So averaged out, the best time is during the week between 11 and 2. So again, that lunchtime period, and weekends between 1 and 4. The worst times are 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Again, I'm sure that's no surprise. What might be a little curious is Wednesday and Thursday. And my logic on that is it's the middle of the week, the beginning of the week, you're getting engaged, you're catching up on things towards the end of the week. Again, you're catching up on things that you haven't dealt with in a couple of days before you go into the weekend. But a lot of times in the middle of the week, you're just super focused on your job. So you might not be on social media for as much time during the middle of the week. So how do you boost your posts? How do you make sure that you get lots of views and engagement? And we'll talk about more of this in the 201 session as well. But the number one most important thing is you've got to have great content. You've got to know who your audience is and be authentic, not only who you are, but also who your business is. For those of you that have a personal Facebook page, I'm sure you would agree that being able to see a photo or a video is a lot more interesting than just seeing text. Well, if you post a photo, you're actually going to generate 120% more engagement. 11% of posts now on Facebook are video, and there are over 8 billion video views every single day. Facebook Live also got popular a couple of years ago, and people are 4 times more likely to watch a live versus something that's pre-recorded. We'll also tell you that posts shorter than 250 characters. So think of the posts that you see in your feed that have the more ... Our recommendation is don't let the more ... happen all the time to your posts. So those that don't have the more ... have 60% more engagement. And then we'll also share with you that if you have a question or there's some kind of an action, you're asking people to vote on something or asking them their opinion on something, you're going to have twice as much engagement then as well. So we wanted to share with you a couple of examples, well, 4 examples that are here in Kansas City that we recommend that you take a look at. One of the things to consider when you're thinking about a business page on Facebook is this is your storefront on a digital platform. So once you've established it, it's searchable and it's public. It also allows your potential customers to get to know you, reading your reviews, but also get a good understanding of what your services are. On Facebook, you're also able to customize and measure your advertising if you've got a business page. You can showcase your hours, which have changed a lot during COVID, your address, any directions, anything that you need to keep your customers updated on. It also increases your search engine optimization. So when somebody puts into Google the name of your company, having a Facebook business page will help them to find you. It's also an ideal way for you to connect and engage with your customers in a super personal way. So we've got 4 examples on the bottom of this slide: Joe's Kansas City, the Kansas City Ballet, J. Rieger and Company, and the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. They all really do an incredible job with their Facebook business page. So if you've got any curiosity, you want to see what they're up to, you can see how they engage and how they talk about their business in really different ways.
One of the ways that Aviva mentioned is that there's always ways to optimize your posts and optimize the content that you're sharing on Facebook. And you can use your business page to do a lot of that. And the reason you need a business page is because it does give you those insights and analytics on gaining insights on your customers. Aviva mentioned those times of days that it's best to post. You don't even have to guess about that, because once you start having a business page, you can go into the back end of Facebook, the analytics section in your business suite, and it'll tell you when your customers and consumers and followers are actually online and engaging with you the most. You can use your business page to gather emails, to enhance your customer service through real-time messaging, as well as run targeted ads, drive traffic to your website. It's just an excellent way to communicate and keep an eye on your end consumer. Now, why are people following you and your business page? Well, 39% will follow a Facebook page because they want to receive a special offer. So if you're thinking of a little carrot to dangle in order to have someone follow your page for the first time, that's a great way to bring them on. But remember, then don't use your Facebook page to just constantly sell to them. Also, 78% of American consumers say that they've discovered products on Facebook, whether it's from ads, their feed, their friends and family sharing it. Facebook is really a way in which people are engaging and discovering new products. We talked a little bit about ads, and honestly, Aviva and I could do a whole class just on Facebook ads, and we will get into this in more detail. But here's why you as a business might need Facebook ads. It helps you amplify your organic reach. Organic means basically your non-paid, all the posts that you put up on Facebook. It lets you micro-target your audience. You can create ads based on zip code, based on gender, income, interest, hobbies, locations, so many different things. It's very cost effective. Facebook ads are still some of the most cost effective advertising that you can do. It helps you find new leads. There's actually an ad designed to get new leads within Facebook. And the greatest thing about Facebook ads is you can change those ads, tweak them, stop them, start them on a dime. And so you can see your results over a week, realize that photograph didn't do well. I'm going to try this same ad with a different photograph and then compare your results. You can do that in a matter of days. So here's another reason why you really should consider using Facebook ads. A post's average organic reach is only 6.4% of the page's total likes. And that's probably being really generous. Mm-hmm. So this means if you have an audience or followers, 100 followers, probably only 6 of them are ever even seeing what you're posting. So a lot of businesses realize that they need to bump up or boost their efforts with a little bit of paid advertising.
So we don't want you to get demoralized by that statistic. I know when we saw that for the first time, it was a little like, oh my gosh, that means I've got to figure out how to get around that. We'll talk a lot about that in the Facebook specific question. So we wanted to now go into questions, and thank you for those that have been submitting through chat and through Q&A. This is a question that comes up quite a bit, which is, how do I know if I need to have both a personal and a business page? And I'm going to let Christina answer that.
It's a great question, because sometimes you're a one-person business. You still need a business page, because a personal page is for your personal use. You don't get any of those great things you get with Facebook, like the targeted audience data, the ability to micro-target your audience, boosting or using ads, the ability to make it look like a storefront with your address, directions, things like that. It just looks like you're a person just kind of sharing what you do, which is great and a great first step. But to really elevate your business, you need to do having a business page and creating all of those things. Now, you do not need a business page if your audience just isn't on Facebook. And so when Aviva went through the target demographic, we do see that pretty much whoever your target demographic is, it's likely that they are on Facebook. Do not have a business page if you're just going to sell. If you're just going to put links to your website and specials, 10% off, just don't do it because you're not going to see a lot of return on your efforts. And if you don't have time to juggle multiple social media platforms and you found or that you're seeing your target demographic is way more active on LinkedIn, let's say, then you don't need to tackle everything all at once. Just tackle LinkedIn or just tackle Twitter if that's where you know your business is going to be successful.
Great. So we had a question come in from Rajesh, and it's around Facebook Live. And his question is, what is the best time to do Facebook Live and how do I promote it in advance?
That's a great question. Facebook Live is an amazing way to promote your business and to get a lot of traction in the algorithm. The best time would be, this is a bit of a trick question, is when is your audience online? So Aviva gave us those times, that kind of 10 to 4, or excuse me, 12 to 4, 11 to 4. That is always a great time. Noon and when people are at lunch is always a great time to do Facebook Live. But look into your analytics and see when is your audience really engaging with you. If you see a huge uptick at 2 p.m., maybe that's the time for you. So that's my sort of all-encompassing answer and then my targeted answer. And then the best way to promote it, which is another great question, you really should create it in advance. And so I back up. Let's say you're doing your Facebook Live Friday at noon. Something should go out Thursday at noon. Something should go out perhaps Monday at noon and perhaps the week before. We see a little bit of diminishing returns when we try to promote a Facebook Live much more than maybe 2 weeks max. People just forget it. There's too much going on Facebook. So really a week before and beyond. If you have an email list, that is a great way to engage people and encourage them to come to Facebook Live because perhaps they've left their email on your website, but they've never interacted with you on Facebook. And that's a great way to get them involved. Invite them to a Facebook Live where they can ask their own questions of you or they can give comments, whatever your Facebook Live looks like.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, so we wanted to give you a peek into some of the things that we're going to talk about in our next class, which is actually next Wednesday at 1 p.m. We're going to start off with Facebook. We're going to talk about algorithms. Algorithms are so important and they can be really, really frustrating. So we're going to share with you our tips and our understanding about how to have algorithms work for you. We will talk a lot more about business pages, Facebook ads, groups, going live, COVID's impact on Facebook, and then we're going to share tools because believe me, as business owners, so Christina's a social media guru. I'm not a social media guru. And I'll tell you, it gets a little overwhelming sometimes to be really active so that you're optimizing your presence in social media. Well, there are a lot of great tools out there to help you not only with content creation, but also with scheduling. So we will go through our recommendations and some examples in our session next week. And then we're going to also share with you some Facebook trends. So we're going to talk about Business Suite, the election, and ad boycotting. Okay, let's transition over to LinkedIn. So as we said early on, LinkedIn is by far best for networking, and it is great for reinforcing your brand and building professional credibility. If you are a B2B business, you should be on LinkedIn. 92% of B2B businesses use LinkedIn. That's basically what the chart on the bottom right-hand corner is showing you. So here are some keys to making LinkedIn really work for you. You need to have a professional photo on your profile. It makes your profile 21 times more viewed, and it would also make it 36 times more likely to receive a message. Now, I'll give you an example. I fortunately, thankfully to my parents, have a super unique name. But if I didn't, and some of you have names where your first and last name, if I put it into search on LinkedIn, a whole bunch of people show up. If there isn't a picture of you and somebody's trying to find you, it's hard for them to know, depending on how robust your profile is built, who you are. And so what happens? There was an instance with several of you, I didn't send you a LinkedIn request because I wasn't sure I was reaching out to the right person. So we don't want that to happen to you. It's important to include your education and your experience. Sorry, there's a little bit of time delay here with the slide. And to include community service and volunteer work. Listing your current position will get you 5 times more connections. So those of you that haven't updated your LinkedIn profile since your last job, whenever that was, please go back in, take 15 minutes and update your current role. If you have it updated, you're going to get 12 times more profile views than those of you that don't have any of this information. And listing skills will get you 14 times more views, 5 or more skills. So 5 skills, that's the magic number, will get you 31 more views because people search on those skills. That's how that works. So you need to think about what are the key words that represent you or your business and make sure that those are listed. Now, here's the challenge that we're going to give you. And we, in our 201 session, will spend a good amount of time teaching you how to get more connections. Your goal personally is to have at least 500 connections. And I know for some of you that seems like a lot. I promise you, you can achieve it. We will walk you through the steps on how to do that. Now, if you are a CEO of your own company or a CEO of a company, your goal's a little bit higher. It's 1,000. And again, I promise we can get you there. We'll teach you how to do it in our LinkedIn session. So here are 7 key tips to improve your personal profile because you need to start there. We want you to have a professional photo. Some of you have fabulous photos. Some of you do not. We want you to have a background that makes sense. So backgrounds really came into LinkedIn, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not 100% on the exact date. And what it does is just give a little more visual appeal to your profile. So if you don't have a background photo, here's what it looks like. It looks like a blue background with a bunch of white. It almost looks like some kind of an astrological picture. We don't want you to have that. It's generic. Everybody knows it's generic. We want you to have a background that somehow correlates or conveys who you are professionally. For me, it's really easy. I just put the logo of my company as my background. We also recommend that you have a descriptive headline with keywords. So for example, mine says CEO, it says entrepreneur. I'm also on several boards. So it says board director, and I am an angel investor. And it's a big part of my professional persona. So I have that on there as well. Sometimes people have really funny words, and sometimes that's cool and that works and that's right for their business. But if you have something so obscure that you're the only one that understands what it means, I don't think that's the best choice. I would encourage you to have it be something a little more easy to understand. There's a section at the very top where you get to kind of tell your story. So you've got a handful of lines to share who you are and the summary of your professional experience. Spend some time on that. It's really important to do a nice job there. Again, for search engine and for people to find you if they're looking for someone with your experience. We want you to showcase your expertise, okay? So it's never fun to write a resume. It's always really hard for us to brag about ourselves. We need you to brag about yourself. Make sure you talk about all the great things that you've accomplished, the titles that you've had, awards that you've achieved. If there are articles that you've been interviewed or featured in or any kind of media, there is a place under every single section for you to attach media. If you're curious about what that looks like, Christina and I will offer to you that you can go into either of our profiles and take a look to see some examples. It's also important that you have education listed. Some people ask, how important is it to include years? And the general rule of thumb is if you graduated more than 10 years ago, you don't need to put the beginning and end date of when you received certain degrees or certification. It will kind of become clear as you outline the different roles that you've had since then. Another thing that people don't realize that's really important is talking about any of your volunteer experiences or causes that are important to you. It is a great way, and especially in a community like Kansas City, but really all over the country, for people to get to know what your other interests are. It's also a great way to connect with people. If you happen to have the same hobbies or you happen to support the same causes and you're trying to get to know them, it's an easy way to begin a conversation. It's also a great way when boards are looking for people with certain passions or certain backgrounds, they can search on that. And if you have it included in your profile, it will help you come up as a candidate for them to reach out to. The other thing that is important in the 7 key steps is recommendations. You don't need to have a ton of them. And in fact, it looks kind of weird if you do have a ton of them. What we recommend is have a handful of very strategic recommendations. This is an example that my friend Debbie Ballard wrote for me after I did some strategic planning for an organization that she was board chair of. And the reason it's great is a lot of my clients, as we work with them, we work with their boards. So it's great to have a testimonial or an endorsement for someone who is an executive in a company, but also a board chair, to reflect on what it was like to work with me as we were doing strategic planning. So think about what it is that you're trying to achieve, and that's how you would go about recommending or requesting recommendations for people. So once you've got your personal profile set up, then you can think about your business profile. So why is it important to have LinkedIn for your business page? Well, first and foremost, just like Facebook, it showcases your company. It's a way to build buzz and get your company some brand awareness. It's also a phenomenal way to position your company as a thought leader in your industry. If you've got a bunch of employees in your organization, it's a great way to showcase their expertise and all the things that they're great at. It's also a fabulous way if in your business, having relationships with your clients or customers is critical. It's a great way to keep that communication going without having to actively go see them or having to actively pick up a phone. As Christina mentioned, especially with COVID, it's really important that your clients and customers know that you're still around and that business is still really good. And if you've pivoted at all in your services or in your products, it's a great way to communicate with them the changes that you've made. It'll improve your company visibility. If you're a growing company and you're recruiting, I guarantee you anyone who looks into applying for a job is going to hop on LinkedIn and see, do they have a presence there and what kinds of things do they talk about? It will also drive traffic to your company website. So again, search engine optimization, all these things matter. They all work together. So at the beginning, we talked about LinkedIn stories, brand spanking new for LinkedIn. And Christina and I were kind of chuckling because we're like, okay, they finally did it. They finally got on the bandwagon. I'm going to let Christina explain what LinkedIn stories are and just kind of walk you through the 3 visuals that we've got on this slide as well.
LinkedIn stories are a really great example of how COVID's impact has changed how people are using social media. People want to be more creative, more communicative on the platforms. LinkedIn hasn't traditionally been known for that. LinkedIn stories actually were rolled out 2 years ago, but just for college kids. It was sort of a beta test. Now they're available to all individuals. And we're talking in the last, I think, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And so LinkedIn stories, if you use Facebook stories or Instagram stories, are very similar, just not as robust. And they are little bits of content, pictures or videos that disappear within 24 hours. You can share these little images or videos. You can tag other people on LinkedIn. You can add stickers. These, and by stickers, I say these little digital, emojis and things like that to them. They are a great way to showcase real updates in real time, to showcase events, thought leadership, little tips. They feel more casual than what you put in your main feed. Stories in general are more casual, so they don't need to be stuck with that same incredible branding that you might put on the main feed of your LinkedIn, which makes them easier and sometimes more accessible. So you as an individual can try those out. You can't access them from desktop. They're for the mobile use only. And if you just your LinkedIn now on your phone and grouping across the top, Aviva has it here in the leftmost image where you can click on people's stories. And if you want to add one of your own, you just press the little plus next to it, and away we go. So if you give us, if you end up doing a LinkedIn story and you want to tag us, we'll take a look at it and we'll be happy to share it.
Yeah, it's not as complicated as some of the other platform stories. So if you have a little courage, we recommend that you try it. It's an experiment. It's super easy. I always let Christina go first on these kinds of things, and then I learn from her. But trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, we've got a lot of really good questions on LinkedIn, and we do have a little bit of time, so I'd love to take some time to answer it. A question that we get all the time is about accepting requests. So Lisa asked a question and she said, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, Lisa. She said, I get so many LinkedIn requests and it seems like most of them are just wanting to sell to me. So what is our recommendation to them on how to determine who to accept and who to say no to? And I know Christina and I both have a point of view on it. So I'll let Christina go first.
All right, so I am probably more in the giving tree category of accepting connections, but based on what I do. And Aviva probably needs to protect what she does a little bit more. So that's your first viewpoint. What do you do and why are you on LinkedIn? So that's your first viewpoint. The second viewpoint is, what are people saying in the connection request and what does their profile look like? So all of those great tips Aviva gave you to optimize your profile, those are the actual things that we look at to decide if we're going to accept that or not. So if someone doesn't have a photo, I'm probably not going to accept them. If someone doesn't have a lot of information, it's just sort of a name and a city, I'm probably not going to accept them. If we have a lot of connections in common, even if maybe they're missing some of those things, I might accept them. If we share a viewpoint or I think we would be a valuable add to each other's networks, I will definitely accept them. If it is accompanied by a note, I will most likely accept them because a note explains why they want to connect with you in the first place. And this is my top tip on if you want to connect with someone and grow your network, include a note. And I was just telling Aviva yesterday, I sent out a couple requests and didn't include a note. I guess I was just having a space cadet day. I broke my own rule. I bet those people will not connect with me because I didn't explain why and what value I would add to their network or why I was interested in connecting with them. So that's a good way you can assess it. I usually say yes based on that criteria.
Right. So, so my criteria, like Christina said, is a little bit different. And I'll tell you, it's evolved over the last 4 years. So when I first started talking to business owners about LinkedIn, my rule of thumb, because it was kind of the LinkedIn rule of thumb based on what LinkedIn represented at that time, was if you don't know them, you shouldn't be accepting it. Well, I have a different business now, and I want to have more connections across the world. So I use all of the criteria that Christina said, and sometimes I get a lot of requests from people wanting me to look at their business plan so that I'll invest in them, or they want to know, what it's going to take to get me to invest in their business. Usually I will tell them I'm happy to connect with you, but I only do my angel investing through a group and I give them the information and I refer them to that. There are times when, like Christina said, if you don't have a profile picture, you don't have any connections in common with me, or whatever you have just looks a little sketchy, I'm not accepting it. I will also accept if people write a nice note, and we'll go into the details on how to write a great note in the LinkedIn specific session. But if people write a really great note and we have a lot of people that we know in common, and I know they're trying to sell me a service. So financial services, insurance, you name it, but I'm not interested in it, because we already have a lot of people in common, I'll say to them, I'm happy to connect with you, but I'm not interested in your services. Thank you. So there's a polite way to accept them into your network if growing your network is one of your goals, without then having to be a victim of them trying to kind of stalk you to sell their services. We've got another great question that we get asked a lot, which is about LinkedIn Premium. So is it necessary to have LinkedIn Premium? It has a cost, and I'm not sure it's necessary to pay. This is from Cheryl. And she said, although I have noticed I can't send a message to someone that has premium since I don't have it. So Christina and I have the same point of view on premium. So I'm going to let Christina answer that question.
If you're in a really sales-driven role, if growing those connections and reaching out to them in LinkedIn is a way that you generate leads, premium makes a ton of sense for you. If you're a business owner and perhaps you're just on LinkedIn for your professional brand and maybe all of your consumers or customers are on Facebook, you probably don't need premium. There are a lot of features that you get with just the basic LinkedIn. If you really want to see who's looking at your profile, if you want to cultivate those leads, and if you're in that those certain fields, and you're constantly setting appointments because of LinkedIn, then premium makes sense for you. If not, to me, it's not necessary. I will also say, if you were active enough on LinkedIn, they will offer you premium for free. So if you want to give it a try and you really want to bump up your efforts to see if you want to use it, that's a good way to do it. If LinkedIn hasn't offered you it for free, you're probably not using LinkedIn enough to need it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
That's great, Christina. Okay, let's see what we're going to talk about in our LinkedIn session. So that is going to be in 2 weeks. And again, I put the links at the very beginning of our chat when we started the class. Here's what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about building your personal profile and how to get those connections. So again, remember, at least 500, maybe 1,000, depending on your role. We are going to talk about establishing your business page and how to get followers, because it's a little bit different for your business page than it is for your personal page. We're also going to talk about LinkedIn for leaders, how leaders in an organization. So that doesn't mean you have to be the owner. It doesn't mean you have to be the CEO. But if you're in any kind of a leadership role in your organization, we're going to talk about why LinkedIn is important and what kinds of content we recommend that you post. We'll also talk about groups. We'll talk about COVID's impact on LinkedIn. We'll talk about hashtags. And again, we'll talk about content creation and scheduling.
All right, let's chat Instagram. Instagram used to be something just for fun, just for the kids, but guess what? It is huge for businesses right now. As Aviva said, it's great if you have an image-friendly business, retail, art, food, something beautiful that someone, but it's really great at showcasing your brand authenticity, giving people kind of a sneak peek behind the curtain. And it's essential really for businesses now, no matter what kind of business you have, because odds are that you will find someone on Instagram, and a larger demographic now on Instagram, who are interested in your services. In fact, 81% of Instagram users use it to research products and services, and 83% of people are discovering new products and services on the platform. If you use Instagram personally at all, you probably have discovered a new product and perhaps even purchased something. And during the time of COVID, we are seeing that more and more people are taking chances with new brands and getting to know new products than they even were before. So maybe this is a good time for your business to start investing in a little bit of time on Instagram. Instagram engagement is huge. 58 times higher than Facebook per follower and 120 times higher than Twitter. It's just always been a really easy platform for people to engage in. The way that it was started, the fact that it was so visual. Instagram is the only platform in which you cannot just lead with text. You have to have some kind of visual, and the visual is really what's showcased, not the text. You can, on Instagram in the main feed, you can put videos or pictures. And it should be noted that Instagram is actually owned by Facebook. And so there's a great relationship between Instagram and Facebook that we'll talk about in both the Facebook and the Instagram 201. But that means if you have a business page on Facebook and a business page on Instagram, you can integrate those, integrate your efforts and your boosting of posts, sharing of ads, all of that. And you can see all the analytics in one place. So that might help manage your time a little bit better. 75% of US businesses will use Instagram this year, and its potential advertising reach is 849 million users. The audience is getting huge on Instagram. And stories, which we'll talk about, 1/3 of the most stories are actually from businesses. Brands are posting stories, businesses are posting stories. And so these things that were at first used casually by individuals are now being used by businesses, and they're seeing really, really great results. So what about using Instagram for business? So you create a business account for free, just like you create a business Facebook page. I gave some examples here, Nike, Oreo, and FedEx, of businesses that have awesome business pages on Instagram that you should check out. But you'd be surprised, Adobe, Spark, WeWork, all of these places might have amazing Instagrams that you might go to for inspiration on their business side of things. You build your profile, you can put one link in Instagram, link to your website. And then how do you engage on your business Instagram page? Well, you have to post regularly and at these key times. You have to use hashtags. You can use up to 30 hashtags per post on your Instagram feed. I suggest trying 11. 11 has always been kind of a magic number in the hashtag game for Instagram. You can use shoppable posts. And so what this means now is that if you have a business page, you can actually, or a business, channel on Instagram, you can actually link to certain products in your store, which is really, really helpful. Running giveaways and promotions is always really successful on Instagram to get a lot of engagement and to help build your brand awareness to new people who may not know about you. And I'll always say the caveat, on both Facebook and Instagram, if you run a contest or a giveaway, make sure you follow the rules and guidelines so they don't take it down. You should really engage with your followers. And I use something called the 5x5 methodology. So this is our free little tip today, which is think about 5 Instagram accounts that you want your business account associated with. So let's say that you're Nike and you want your business associated with different athleisure wear and with Lululemon and with all of these different accounts. So you would go in and write 5 comments on 5 comments on 5 different posts for 5 different accounts that you want to be associated with. And all of a sudden, Instagram is understanding that your business page somehow is associated and linked in with those others, so that when someone starts following a different business page, and you get that little bar that says, who else should I be following? Your business will start to show up in that bar of who else I should be following. We'll talk more about the 5x5 methodology and some other tips for that. But basically what it means is you have to engage with other businesses and other individuals if you want to be discovered, your business to be discovered on Instagram. And also using Instagram stories. Instagram stories are an amazing, effective way to help your business. So we talked a little bit about LinkedIn stories. Instagram stories are much more robust. Instagram is the channel in which stories were created. So again, they're little posts and videos that disappear after 24 hours. They're viewed in a slideshow format, like a reel, like commercials on TV. So one goes into another, goes into another. The great thing about this is the business stories and the personal stories on someone's feed are not differentiated. So I might be looking at Instagram stories and I might see Aviva's Instagram stories, and then I might see Chrissy Teigen's Instagram stories, and then I might see Nike's Instagram stories, and then my friend Dixie's Instagram stories. And it goes so seamlessly that what it does is, as a business, it ingratiates you really to the person who's viewing your stories. It familiarizes yourself to them because they're viewing it and experience in tandem with their own personal connections. And so that's a really great way to use stories. Very authentic engagement, really connecting with your followers. You can save them on your Instagram. Since they do disappear, you can save them and make these little highlight reels, which is really nice. And you also can put little stickers, questions, polls, things that just give you a great way to engage with your followers. I talked about how a third of most viewed stories are from businesses, and how brands with an average of 2.5 stories per week, they do better. And so people are becoming more interested after seeing a product in stories. We're seeing this trend. US marketers are spending 31% of their Instagram ad budgets on stories. And the great thing is, if you have a business Instagram and you have a business Facebook page, you can create an Instagram, and at the same time, with the push of a button, also have it pop up in your Facebook stories. So it is saving you some time. Creation time is really, really helpful.
That's great, Christina. Thank you. So we have a question that comes up a lot, and it might have come up in your own mind as we were going through Instagram and stories. So the question is, how do I know if I should share something in a story or in a post on Instagram?
So it depends on what you're wanting to share. Remember that a post will live in your feed forever and a story will disappear in 24 hours. So is it a piece of evergreen content, or is it time sensitive? If it's something that has an expiration date, like 32 hours left in our flash sale, you should definitely put that in stories. If it's something 1 week till our event, that should definitely go in stories. Are you looking for answers or engagement from your followers? If you want your followers to answer questions, you might really get a great response if you use the little question sticker in Instagram stories, because they can actually input their answer right there into stories. You can always ask a question on a post, but data tells us that people engage with stories in a different way. So if you're really wanting that engagement, consider stories. Again, the content of your feed should all have a certain type of branding, that of your business. But on Instagram stories, it can be much more casual, created right then in the moment. It can be a little less finessed. So if you're snapping pictures at an event, or you're doing kind of a selfie somewhere, that might be better served for your stories. Again, how long do you want people to have access to that content? If it's just for a short time, it goes into stories. And if you want to generate awareness and discoverability with your posts, then you're going to include all those hashtags. You're not going to be able to create as many hashtags in an Instagram story or tag as many people. So use stories as a way to really engage your followers, get them excited. You can always save the stories to your highlight reels. So don't feel like you're doing efforts that are just going away forever in 24 hours. They're just going to live in a different place on your Instagram after 24 hours.
So that's a great segue, Christina. We've got a question from Sarah, and she's asking, what's the difference between Instagram stories and reels?
Okay, good question. So Reels is really designed, and Reels is also very new, is really designed to mirror more of that TikTok or Snapchat video aspect. It has more of that feel to it, whereas stories are little bits of content. So you can kind of think of it in different ways. Stories can be pieces of content that you sort of dress up with the stickers, whereas reels, you're really creating right then and there, and it should have that feel of TikTok, which I say, or that feel of Snapchat, which is really video centric, very on trend centric. Because reels are newer, they're appealing to a different audience. And so again, think about who is your target demographic? Who do you really want to reach? And are they going to be interested in your reels, or are they going to be more interested in your stories or posts?
Okay, so also a great segue to the next question that Lisa asks, and she says, should we create a story with our posts? Should we have hashtags and tag businesses in stories?
You definitely can. There's a limit to how many businesses you can tag per story. I think it's 10, if I'm not mistaken. And there's also a limit to hashtags. So I think it depends on the kind of content. You should always tag people in both. There's two different ways to tag people in your something you put in your feed, a post, and we can talk about that. That's one of them is actually tagging the picture, and one is just doing the @ sign. So I would say it just depends on what you want that content to look like. The other idea is if you want someone to immediately share something on their Instagram, by tagging them in a story, it gives them the ability to just push one button and add that content to their story. So that really makes it easy for them. If you're tagging them in just a post on Instagram and you want them to share it, they either have to have one of the apps that connects to share it, to regram it, we might say, or they're going to have to go through the old method of sort of snapping a picture of the post, editing it, the picture rather, editing it, and then resharing that way. So what is the design? Do you want them to reshare it, or did you just want them to see it?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, actually. And being on the receiving end of that, I can say whenever Christina creates a story about our classes and she tags me, I love it because I just need to press a button that says share to my own story. Were it just through a post, it would be really tedious to go back in and kind of recreate everything. And I don't think it looks as great to take a screenshot and then post it. I think stories is definitely a little more casual, a little less time investment for people as they're kind of going through the content. So I think that's great. Okay, so let's talk about what we will share in,
I'll just give you a little fast fact. Most people scroll through their feed without sound, but 70% of users watch stories with their sound on. So that's my little fast fact for you to think about. If you're posting a video with sound, stories is probably the way to go.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about in our 201 class. This will be the fourth class in our series. We are going to combine Instagram and Twitter in this class, and it's going to be on November 4th. And again, you can sign up for it the exact same way you signed up for this class. We will talk about hashtags. We will talk about Instagram for business. We're going to share a lot of really great local success examples because a lot of times I think it's really inspiring if you're trying to tackle something a little bit new or enhanced for your own business to kind of see what other businesses are doing. It'll give you some really good encouragement of how fun it can be. We will also talk about more Instagram stories and influencers, and again, some tools just to make it easy for you on both content creation and scheduling. Okay, so now let's talk about Twitter. I would love to know, I don't know how easily you guys can do this. For anybody that is on Twitter today, just go ahead and type into chat that you are, or do a raise your hand or something like that, and I'll take a look at it as we go through the Twitter section. Twitter was known for like in the moment updates on PR and news, and for businesses, it is phenomenal for real-time customer engagement. 22% of adult Americans use Twitter, and Gen Z is actually the highest demographic on Twitter. Twitter has a really good representation when it comes to certain segments of the population. So 42% have a college degree compared with 31% of the national population, and 41% have an income above $75,000 compared to the national population. 12% of the general public get their news on Twitter, but, and here's the key thing in this statistic, over 75% of users that are on Twitter, so Twitter users, get their news from Twitter. Watching video is the number 3 reason people use Twitter. I can attest to that. My husband is on Twitter all the time, and it's the videos. Anytime there's some kind of background noise, he's on Twitter watching a video. However, the lifespan of a tweet is only 7 minutes. So because of that, if you are a business, brands typically post 3 to 30 times a day. And that's a really important consideration. We're not trying to tell you you shouldn't be on Twitter. It might be the absolute perfect social media platform for you, but we just want you to take on something that you can manage.
So in fact, if you are going to use Twitter for your business, then you need to know how to do that and why you should. So tweet often, tweet early, and tweet often. As Aviva said, it's really a numbers game on Twitter. People are counting on you tweeting consistently and often, and also tweeting with hashtags. Tweets with hashtags get 100% more engagement than those without. Usually a magic number is 3 or less. Don't do more than that. You'll see a demise in your engagement. Use images. Tweets with images get 89% more favorites, more hearts. And use video, as Aviva said. Tweets with videos get 10 times the engagement and 6 times the chance of being retweeted. Twitter is a fast and furious platform. And so the more you can optimize your business Twitter and really use it for what your customers and consumers want, the better. I will always add this note. Stay focused and kind on Twitter. It can often be a volatile social media channel because it's so fast and furious. There's a lot of conversations. And so I will say a tweet doesn't last forever unless someone grabs a screen grab of it or a picture of it. And so when you're using social media for your business, especially Twitter, remember that there's no sort of gatekeeping like there is in some of these other channels. Everyone can see everything on Twitter, whether you have a business page or a private page, unless you have a locked profile on Twitter, which you wouldn't as a business. Everyone can see both what people are tweeting at you and your. This makes it very popular for customer service, which is a really instrumental way that you can use Twitter.
Great. So, question, how do I know if Twitter is right for my business?
So not everyone has to be everywhere, but if you know that you want daily interactions with the target demographic that is on Twitter and you're ready to engage with your audience in real-time tweeting, then Twitter might be for you. If you're ready to use Twitter as think of additional customer service, then it's right for you. If you have the kind of brand where people are going to Twitter to search for that type of business, then it might be right for you. However, Twitter is a commitment. You have to research your competition. We always say, don't let Twitter become a career limiting risk. And what I mean by that is you have CEOs on Twitter, you have businesses on Twitter, and you have individuals on Twitter. All 3 of these might represent your business. And just remember that if you are the CEO of a company, what you put on Twitter might reflect how people view your business. And so you just need to be really aware of that. In Twitter, we'll show you the constant examples we have of that, of people who have really done a phenomenal job. And then honestly, people who have gotten fired because they've done a terrible job. If you want to follow someone great on Twitter, I would suggest the Kansas City Chiefs. They do a nice job of sharing content that people, retweeting people, engaging with people, tagging people, just individuals like you and I. Another terrific example is Wendy's. The fast food chain, is actually their Twitter is run right here in Kansas City. And they have a really fun Twitter. Not right for everybody's brand, but it'll give you some fun ideas of what you can do.
Okay, so we've got a great Twitter question from Lisa. Her question is, how does a business get more followers on Twitter?
A couple ways. The first way is if you use hashtags for your content. If you use hashtags, people will start to search those hashtags and they'll start to see your content more and more. That's one way you can get followers. Another way to get followers is by following people, following other organizations that are similar to yours or that are supplementary or that you might work together. Another way is to engage in Twitter chats. This is a huge thing that we can talk about during the Twitter 201, but it's basically these live conversations. And every time I do one, and they're about certain subjects and scheduled throughout the week, every time I participate in one, I always pick up more followers because I'm showing that I'm a voice of authority who's really engaging. But the top thing is tweeting often and sharing a lot of content. Those are the top ways to get followers.
That's great, Christina. Thank you. And thank you, Lisa, for the question. Okay, so what are we going to talk about more in our Twitter 201 class? We will talk more about Twitter for Business. We'll share some local success examples. We know you guys always like that. We'll talk about hashtags. We'll talk about the power of Twitter when it comes to customer service. And then trending topics. We'll be talking about the election. That's going to get hot. We'll be making those slides Wednesday morning.
I know, right? So we'll see what that reveals. So let's talk about some things to do and to don't. Aviva will share with you some hard and fast rules of do's and don'ts on social media.
Okay, and I think we've got this in your handout as well. And I'm going to just give you a little preview that the very last bullet is a big pet peeve of mine. So I'm going to teach you some good social media protocol that hopefully you'll agree with and you'll be able to follow. So first and foremost, we will always recommend to you that you have a social media strategy that links up with your business goals. That's why we shared that big chart of the 4 platforms very early on, so you could start to think about in your mind what's the best match for your business. We always want you to think about how each post is going to impact your brand, because really at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We want all of those impressions to be really positive impressions. We always recommend that you find the right balance between promotions, incentives, information, and fun. The best way to do that is just think about what you see in your own feed and what you like. You don't want the same kind of information from a company. You like for them to mix it up a little bit. And then tell your story. Part of the beauty of social media is it gives you an opportunity to be really authentic and personal with your audience. So take advantage of that. I know that in the beginning, it can feel a little bit nervous. You can be nervous about it and it can feel a little unsettling, but we promise you the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get and your audience will really appreciate it. You have to remain professional when you're communicating about your business on social media. You would hate to alienate people because you're not professional, whether it's the language you use or the topics that you might include on your business posts. And then we'll always tell you, like any kind of marketing investment, whether it's time or money or time and money, we want you to track your results. So identify the key performance indicators that are important to you in your strategy. It might be the number of followers that you have. It might be engagement metrics, like how many likes do you get? How many shares? Are you getting people to comment? And how many clicks are actually going to your website if that's one of the objectives that you have? And then, this is my big one, you can take your pen and circle it, reciprocity. So Christina mentioned a lot of different ways for you to increase your own visibility, followership, to help your algorithms is around engagement. So engage with other small businesses or anybody that you want to support, whether it's personally or businesses, on their pages, like their posts, comment on their posts. You can tag them in your comments. There's all kinds of great ways that you can do that. I promise you, if you do that for other businesses, they will notice and they will do that for you. How frustrating is it? And I'm sure many of you have experienced it when you post and you post and you post and you don't get nearly the kind of engagement that you're hoping to get, whether it's an acknowledgement like a like or a heart or any kind of comment. And then think about those posts where like 200-300 people or thousands of people are liking it and commenting it. And doesn't it make you feel so great? Well, wouldn't you like to be the one that helps somebody feel great about their post? Because then they will do it for you.
Absolutely. That's so important to remember. So just like everything as we wrapped up, COVID has impacted everything for our business. And it has really not only impacted, but forever changed social media. Right now, people are at record levels of engagement. They're spending more and more time online, and they want to see social media inspire them. They want to create social media. They're using it in a different way. We're seeing this mirrored with like TikTok. TikTok exploded since COVID has been going on, with a prediction of 65 million monthly users just here in the US, which is insane. All of these new features have been rolled out since the pandemic started. Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat, these new features, and LinkedIn Stories. And it's no coincidence. People are using these features because they want to create more. Gen Z particularly, 42% of them are saying we want more content that's fun. We want to be connected to people. So remember, when you create your content for your business, this is how people are using social right now, and this is what they want from social right now. So help meet them in the middle and give them what they want.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, the next many slides are all in your handouts, and I know we've got like literally a couple of minutes. So a request for all of you from Christina and I, please let us know what you liked the most about our session today, and please go ahead and sign up for our classes that are coming up. We've got this slide in your packet as a reminder. We're going to talk about other things as well, but these are kind of the headlines in each of the classes. And we would love for you to follow us on our social media channels. So personally and professionally, again, this should be in your handout. These are the different ways that you can get in touch with us. We've tried to reach out to a whole bunch of you, so check your inboxes. You might have LinkedIn requests from us. We did include the next 3 months. So, you know, one way to think about it is spend the next week and a half thinking about what you want to accomplish in Q4 when it comes to your social media plan. And then you can use these handouts or work as worksheets, or you can use whatever format works for you. We just wanted to give you something tangible so that you left here feeling like you had the beginnings of a plan that you could then implement. If you need to take it back to your team and get ideas, that's awesome. We would love for you to do that. And if you've got more questions about whatever platform you decide to delve into more deeply, just sign up for our class on that platform, and we would be happy to try to answer as many questions as possible. Christina, is there anything else you'd like to say as we close out?
I'll just remind you that October is National Women's Small Business Month. So this is extra special for Aviva and I to be teaching this class right now. Connect with us, let us know your questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next 3 Wednesdays. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christina and Aviva, for this great presentation. Once again, it was stellar. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Hopefully, we will see you all next week on Wednesday at 1 o'clock for the Facebook 201 session. And hopefully you saved the links from Aviva and Christina to get registered, but we will also send those out from the Women's Business Center so that you will have those. Thanks so much and have a great day.